Alright, what's going on, guys? Trev back again, here to bring you another video. This one's going to be doing a review for volume number 29 of the Walking Dead comic book series. This one is for Lines We Cross. And spoiler warning, as per usual, if you guys have not read this trade yet for the Walking Dead comic book series. So this makes number 29, so volume 29 now for the Walking Dead, and each one roughly gathers about 6 issues or one story arc in the Walking Dead series, Lines We Cross. And if you guys haven't seen, I've done reviews for every single volume of the Walking Dead comic book series from the very beginning up to volume 29. So that's a lot of volumes of the Walking Dead comic book series, and as well as reviewed every issue as it's been released over these 15 years. I guess they're coming up close soon on 15 years of Walking Dead comic book series form. So that's how long the series has been running for. It's really amazing. So for this one, volume number 29. So on the front here we have the Princess, which is fun, of course, a new character in the Walking Dead comic book series. If you haven't seen my review for the issue yet, she's got her trusted spear here, and we kind of meet her in Pittsburgh on the way through to kind of just starting to meet the Commonwealth, because of course the volumes are a little bit behind versus the individual issues. It takes a little while for them to kind of compile them together and then get a release date and release out these volumes, but I think it's the best way to collect The Walking Dead in terms of like what's a way where you can go and read it back. That's why I personally collect these rather than the single issues. I mainly read the single issues digitally, even though they're worth more. So it depends what you want. If you're a collector and you want to kind of sell, the issues down the road at some point, then these single issues are definitely better to get. If you're like me and you want to kind of, read through The Walking Dead, a lot, which I have over the years, then I personally like the trade volumes, and I have them in the back there. If you guys haven't noticed, in the reviews and the videos and everything, I've got a lot of the different volumes. I have every volume up to current release. Volume 30, I think, it might be out already in the States. I got to check and see. This one, it took a little while to do this review for this one just because it was so backed up with everything else we were doing. New episode of The Walking Dead Season 8, second half, for all those weeks, and then Fear starting. So finally with this week, with having some actual time in between, it allows us to kind of do some reviews and other discussion topics for Walking Dead and other stuff that I intended to get to that I had to push back during that time. So this one has been out for a little while. Heads up for that. It's just because didn't have time due to all the other stuff we were doing. So that said, though, it's not a bad volume. There's in this one, I want to say there isn't like just one theme of something that's happening. This starts to get into, and has been recently, probably since a larger world, a different sort of feel for the Walking Dead comic books, where rather than having it all take place at one location or maybe two locations, we're starting to see a lot of different story arcs happening, at the same time in different, vastly different locations, different positions completely. So you have Eugene and Michonne's group who kind of head out to meet the Commonwealth, and this contains just the start of that, and they meet the Princess along the way, as well as when they head through Pittsburgh. And there's some kind of cool George A. Romero sort of Easter eggs here. Like this one, the hello, is anyone there? So you have Michonne, she's shouting on an awesome splash page, right? This is really nice art. But yeah, so this is a lot like Day of the Dead, when we hear kind of near the beginning of that movie, that's one of the things, like they're kind of going around looking, hello, is anyone out there? That kind of thing. So also his, George A. Romero's home city or town that he grew up in, Pittsburgh. So that's kind of cool right there. Again, an awesome splash page as you have Michonne, Eugene, Sadiq, and the rest of the group that are heading to meet the Commonwealth. And, as we're kind of going through, so we've got that going on. Then we have kind of the usual stuff with Rick and a little bit with Carl here, which always throws me through a loop every time I see Carl. And, it's like, here he is here as well, too. And it's like, oh, yeah, he's not dead in the comics. Every time you have to kind of refresh yourself. It's like, oh, right, two different versions, right? So there's that. And probably what I would say, at least for me, is my favorite part of the issue is the stuff between, or this volume, is the stuff between Maggie and Negan. So this one does contain sort of the, I want to say, final kind of confrontation between the two, and finally sort of resolves what happened in issue 100, and also within TV series as well, too, with the death of Glenn. So Negan, of course, as we all know, I don't have to say it, killed Glenn, in spectacular, okay, not spectacular, but in an absolutely brutal fashion, right, in front of everybody. So embarrassing and everything. Absolutely horrendous what he did, right? So Maggie has held a grudge against him all this time. We've seen the start of this in The Walking Dead Season 8's finale, where you can kind of see them planting seeds for that already in the TV series. So in this version, she actually goes to exact her revenge on Negan. So what happens here, and again, spoilers, TV series could be different. It certainly was with Carl, so we're not saying, but spoilers for the comics, really. Negan helps Rick and he helps the others in a sort of No Way Out 2.0 situation against the Whisperers. And then, so he basically earns his freedom back. Rick lets him go. So Negan is able to kind of leave on his own and go back to his the place where he was living prior to the zombie apocalypse, to kind of his old life, and kind of just survive on his own there. And it's kind of funny. You get some kind of lines with him planning and doing things like this. And he forges a new Lucille type of deal. So he can't help himself. He finds a new bat. He forges a new Lucille, and he's just on his own, kind of surviving. Here's him like planting flowers and things like this. And so Maggie had sent Dante after him to follow him. So of course, basically this is the chance where Maggie actually confronts Negan. Here she is here with a gun. And, he's surprised as the F, right? So she's going to kill him, right? So then it comes down to it, and it really makes it look like she's going to kill him. And Negan is sorry for what he did, so he's going to let her if she wants to do that. He's not going to fight back. He actually tells her to do it, and he wants her to do it. He wants her to kill him at that point, because he's done a lot of bad stuff, right? He's done a lot of bad shit, and for him it's like he just kind of wants it all to end. He feels terrible for what he did and everything, and he just he doesn't really care if he lives or dies anymore. So the final resolution in the comic book series version, again, the TV series could be totally different, is Maggie doesn't really forgive him, but she is not going to kill him. So she's not going to kill Negan and kind of give him a way out in that way, and be kind of do it through revenge and kind of give him what he wants in the end there, which is to rest. So she decides not to kill him. So it's like a final confrontation. She decides not to, and then he leaves Lucille. He burns Lucille and kind of changes in that way, and then you have the start to Maggie and Dante's relationship, which is just getting rolling here. So it's kind of like the first thing where Dante has been kind of making advances on Maggie for a while. We might see this in the TV series version with Alden, and in this one she sort of embraces him as she kind of forgives Negan in a way, but maybe not forgives him, but lets it go with Negan, and as a result of what happened with Glenn, sort of letting Glenn go in that moment, and then starts kind of a new relationship with Dante. So that's my favorite part of the issue, and that's my favorite kind of focus of the issue. But there's also a part of the issue where the kind of finale for the Whisperers here. You have Beta right here, and here's Jesus here, and he's coming up behind him, and he's pretty much attacking Jesus. And so you have Nicholas and Jesus against Beta, and some zombies that are kind of in the immediate vicinity. And it was an ending that I think a lot of us were kind of not that happy with, because what it ended up being was just that Beta gets shot by Nicholas, I think, when Jesus is kind of fighting with him, and as a result, that's basically it. He just gets shot, and he dies, and that's the end of the Whisperers, just like that. So the Whisperers, in the comic book series version anyway, as fearsome as they were at the start, in the end they fizzled out kind of easily, or the survivors the Whisperers had a super strong start, and then they fizzled out pretty quickly, and in the end the survivors were able to beat them without all that much trouble. So it wasn't like there was a whole bunch of heads on pikes, and they seemed like they were going to be the most fearsome group of all time. And then in the comic book series version, their leadership ended up being dealt with fairly easily, at least in the end, and it kind of left a lot of fans kind of being like, this is okay. So that said, it is a really cool volume, because you get all this different mix of different things happening with the different groups. And of course, the Maggie and Negan stuff, I think, is some of the most important stuff in the whole series. It's kind of one of the first things I would say that sort of feels in this volume as important as Rick versus Shane near the beginning of the series because of what happened with Lori. The things that happened here between Maggie and Negan after what he did in killing Glenn, to me, it almost trumps the Shane stuff. The rivalry between Shane and Rick in the TV series or in the comic book series, it feels trumped in this one. It feels like Maggie versus Negan is, because of Glenn, is of higher importance than that stuff that happened prior. And it's one of the absolute highlights of the series for me, which is what really stands out. And also, another good thing about that is it's one of the first times in the series that I think, in my opinion anyway, you guys can leave your comments below on what your opinion is of that part of the story and that story arc. It's one of the first things that happens in The Walking Dead that I felt like it was superior in terms of a storyline to what was going on with Rick. I felt like what was happening with Maggie there and Negan was your top A, stuff in the series at that time of more higher importance than what was happening with Rick. And that rarely happens because The Walking Dead is kind of Rick's show or Rick's story in the comic book series version. And this was one of the first times we saw something that I felt was so vastly more important than what Rick was going through or whatever was happening with Rick. It was sort of like Maggie took over The Walking Dead for a bit with Negan as the villain there and kind of became kind of the core focus of the series for a little bit, which is something that, a lot of us thought might never happen. And for a lot of series, it doesn't. For a lot of series, you have that main character, and then everything that happens with everybody else feels like supporting roles or feels like it's of lesser importance than that main character. This one for The Walking Dead really felt like what the rivalry between Maggie and Negan was more important than the Whisperers. It was more important than Rick. It was more important than Dwight or anything that was happening with anybody else. Eugene and the others, anything, Commonwealth, whatever. So for that, emotionally anyway, I thought it was fantastic. So in terms of a review score for this volume, I'm going to give it a 9.2 out of 10. I absolutely love that stuff. I wanted to see more from Beta, but oh well, it's what it is. And we can look forward to the TV series version to see how the Whispers turn out in that and to see what happens with the Maggie-Negan situation. That is, if Maggie is even around long enough to do this kind of thing with. And I have a sinking suspicion that she might not be. So we'll see. Leave your comments below. Let me know what you guys thought about this volume. If you want to see another volume review, leave a comment below, and I will do one for volume 30 when it hits, or when I can get it. That's it for this video, guys. If you liked it, please thumb it up below. You can share, you can favorite. And if you're new and you want to subscribe to the channel, I would appreciate it, and you can do it. You can subscribe at the bottom. That's it for this one. I'll see you guys again soon for another video. As always, it's Trev, and I'm saying peace. Later, guys. See you soon.